Welcome to East Flicks, where we bring you deep dives into the world of cinema. Today, we're exploring the film Dune, Part 2, which premiered on March 1st, 2024. Whether you're a dedicated fan of the Dune franchise or just curious about what makes this epic sequel stand out, you're in the right place. If you enjoy in-depth discussions about movies, consider subscribing so you never miss a new breakdown. Now, let's get into the heart of Dune, Part 2, and uncover what makes it a must-watch. Dune, Part 2, 2024, is an American epic science fiction film directed and co-produced by Denis Villeneuve, who co-wrote the screenplay with Jon Spaihts. Serving as a sequel to Dune, 2021, the film is the second installment in a two-part adaptation of Frank Herbert's 1965 novel Dune. It continues the journey of Paul Atreides as he allies with the freemen of the desert planet Arrakis to lead a rebellion against House Harkonnen. Returning cast members include Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Rebecca Ferguson, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Charlotte Rampling, and Javier Bardem, while newcomers Austin Butler, Florence Pugh, Christopher Walken, and Léa Seydoux join the ensemble. Development began in 2016 after Legendary Entertainment acquired the film and television rights to the Dune franchise. Villeneuve joined as director in 2017, envisioning a two-part adaptation to fully capture the novel's complexity. While the first film's production was secured, the second installment was greenlit in October 2021 following the success of the first. Principal photography took place between July and December 2022 across locations in Budapest, Italy, Jordan, and Abu Dhabi. Originally slated for release in November 2023, the film was delayed due to the 2023 Hollywood labor strikes. It premiered on February 6, 2024, at the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City, and was released in the United States on March 1, 2024. The film received critical acclaim and grossed $714.4 million worldwide, surpassing its predecessor and becoming the fourth highest-grossing film of 2024. A sequel, based on Frank Herbert's 1969 novel Dune Messiah, is currently in development. Plot: after the devastating fall of House Atreides at the hands of House Harkonnen, Princess Irulan, daughter of Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV, reflects on the treachery orchestrated by her father in her private journals. Meanwhile, on the desert planet Arrakis, Paul Atreides and his mother, Lady Jessica, pregnant with a second child, are escorted by Stilgar and his freeman warriors to the hidden sanctuary of Sietch Tabr. Though some freemen regard Paul and Jessica with suspicion, fearing they may be spies, others interpret their arrival as a fulfillment of a long-standing prophecy. The prophecy foretells that a mother and son from the outer world will lead the freemen to a new era of prosperity and freedom on Arrakis. As tensions simmer within the Sietch, Paul begins to navigate the complex dynamics of freeman society while grappling with his growing role as the prophesied leader, the Mahdi, and the immense power bestowed upon him by his prescient visions. The freemen ultimately accept Paul into their ranks, but Stilgar informs Jessica that she must undergo a critical rite of passage to succeed the dying Reverend Mother of Sietch Tabr. This involves consuming the water of life, a deadly and hallucinogenic substance lethal to men and untrained women. Drawing upon her advanced Bene Gesserit training, Jessica successfully transmutes the toxic liquid, ensuring her survival and gaining the collective memories of all previous Reverend Mothers. This ritual has an unintended consequence. It prematurely awakens the consciousness of her unborn daughter, Alia. Now endowed with extraordinary awareness, Alia and Jessica can communicate telepathically, deepening their bond and sense of shared purpose. Recognizing the challenges ahead, they resolve to win over the skeptical northern freeman tribes and further solidify the prophecy's influence. Meanwhile, Chani, a fierce freeman warrior and close friend of Shishakli, begins to question the mythos surrounding Paul. She and Shishakli correctly deduce that the prophecy was likely fabricated as a tool for manipulation. Despite her initial reservations, Chani grows to respect Paul after he expresses his genuine desire to fight alongside the freemen as one of their own rather than seek to dominate or rule over them. As their bond strengthens, Paul's destiny within the freeman community becomes increasingly entwined with their shared struggle for liberation. As Paul immerses himself in freeman culture, he and Chaney fall deeply in love. He adopts the Freeman names Usul and Muad'Dib while mastering their ways. Speaking their language fluently, training as a Fidakan warrior, raiding Harkonnen spice operations, and proving his worth by riding a colossal sandworm. His growing reputation inspires the Freeman, but also provokes the ire of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. To counter the escalating spice raids, the Baron appoints his cunning and ruthless nephew Phaedratha as the new ruler of Arrakis. Concurrently, Lady Margot Fenring, a Bene Gesserit operative, is dispatched to evaluate Phaedratha as a potential Kwisatz Haderach candidate and to ensure his genetic legacy aligns with the Bene Gesserit breeding program. Meanwhile, Jessica travels south to rally Freeman fundamentalists, those most devout in their belief in the prophecy of the Mahdi. Paul remains in the north, haunted by visions of a devastating holy war fought in his name. Fearing the catastrophic consequences of embracing the messianic role, he hesitates to take on the mantle of savior. During a raid on a smuggler's spice harvester, Paul reunites with Gurney Halleck, his trusted mentor and House Atreides loyalist. Gurney leads Paul to a cache of atomic warheads, hidden by the Atreides before their fall. The conflict escalates as Phaedratha launches a brutal assault on the northern Freeman, obliterating Sietch Tabr and killing Shishakli. Paul and the surviving Freemen are forced to flee south. Upon arriving in the southern territories, Paul undertakes the perilous ritual of drinking the water of life. The potent substance throws him into a deep coma, infuriating Chaney, who fears for his life. Despite her anger, Jessica persuades Chaney to save him. Chaney combines her tears with the water of life, creating a mixture that revives Paul. Awakening from the coma, Paul emerges transformed, his clairvoyance vastly expanded. He now perceives the intricate threads of space and time, glimpsing an adult Alia on a water-filled Arrakis and identifying a precarious path to victory among countless possible futures. Paul also discovers a shocking truth. Jessica is the illegitimate daughter of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, adding another layer of complexity to his destiny. Paul convenes a war council with the Southern Freemen, electrifying them by demonstrating his uncanny ability to perceive their innermost thoughts. Declaring himself the Lisan al-Gaib, the prophesied savior, he sends a bold challenge to Padishah Emperor Shaddam IV. Shaddam arrives on Arrakis, bringing his daughter Irulan, the Sardaukar elite troops, and a fleet of great houses, summoned by the Baron to secure his rule. Furious at the Harkonnens' failures, Shaddam reprimands them as tensions mount. The Freemen launch a coordinated assault, combining the destructive power of atomic weapons with the terrifying might of sandworm-mounted warriors to overwhelm the Sardaukar forces. Amid the chaos, Paul executes Baron Vladimir Harkonnen and captures the Emperor. Simultaneously, Gurney Halleck leads a successful attack on Arrakeen, intercepting and killing Rabban, the Baron's brutal enforcer. Seizing his moment, Paul challenges Shaddam for the imperial throne. To Chaney's heartbreak, he announces his intent to marry Princess Irulan, securing a political alliance necessary for his ascendancy. Irulan reluctantly agrees but demands her father's life be spared as a condition of their union. Meanwhile, Paul's message to the orbiting great houses is clear. Intervene, and he will annihilate the planet's spice fields using atomic warheads, a move that would cripple the universe's economy and power structures. In a final attempt to preserve his rule, Phaedratha steps forward as Shaddam's champion, challenging Paul to a duel. Paul emerges victorious, killing Fade in a brutal fight, solidifying his dominance. Shaddam surrenders the throne, but the great houses, unwilling to accept Paul's rule, voice their rejection. In response, Paul orders the Freemen to attack the orbiting fleets. Stilgar leads the charge, commandeering captured Sardaukar ships, while the battle spills into the stars. As the tide turns decisively in Paul's favor, Jessica and Alia reflect with foreboding on the holy war that has now begun in his name. Chaney, disillusioned by Paul's decisions and unwilling to accept the compromises he has made for power, departs alone into the desert, riding a sandworm. Though victorious, Paul's path to ruling the universe is now inextricably linked to the prophecy, war, and sacrifices that will reshape the fate of humanity. Cast: Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides. the exiled Duke of House Atreides who allies with the Freeman to overthrow House Harkonnen. Zendaya as Chani, a rebellious Freeman warrior and Paul's love interest. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica, Paul's Bene Gesserit mother and former concubine to Duke Leto Atreides. Josh Brolin as Gurney Halleck, a former military leader of House Atreides and Paul's loyal mentor. Austin Butler as Phaedrotha, the Baron's cunning and sadistic nephew, heir to House Harkonnen. Florence Pugh as Princess Irulan, the Emperor's eldest daughter, heiress presumptive, and a Bene Gesserit initiate. Dave Bautista as Rabban, the brutal nephew of Baron Harkonnen and older brother of Phaedrotha. Christopher Walken as Emperor Shaddam IV, the Padishah Emperor of the known universe and ruler of House Carino. Leah Seydoux as Lady Margot Fenring, a Bene Gesserit operative and confidant of the Emperor. Suhaila Yaqub as Shishakli, a courageous Freeman warrior and close friend of Chani. Stellan Skarsgård as Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, the manipulative head of House Harkonnen and enemy of House Atreides. Charlotte Rampling as Reverend Mother Mohiam, a Bene Gesserit Reverend Mother and the Emperor's trusted truthsayer. Javier Bardem as Stilgar, the wise and respected leader of the Freemen at Sietch Tabor. Uncredited appearances. Anya Taylor-Joy as Alia Atreides, Paul's unborn sister, who appears in his visions and communicates telepathically with Jessica while still in the womb. Returning characters in archival or unused footage. Babs Alyasamakin as Jamies and Roger Yuan as Lieutenant Lonville reprise their roles from the first film. Stephen McKinley Henderson as Thufir Hawat filmed scenes that were ultimately excluded from the final cut. Tim Blake Nelson filmed scenes as an undisclosed character that also did not make it into the theatrical release. Director Denis Villeneuve gave both Henderson and Nelson a special thanks, credit in recognition of their contributions. Production. Development. Denis Villeneuve returned to direct and co-write Dune. Part 2. In November 2016, Legendary Pictures acquired the film and television rights to Dune, the 1965 science fiction novel by Frank Herbert. Mary Parent, Legendary's vice chair of worldwide production, initiated discussions with Denis Villeneuve about directing a film adaptation after recognizing his passion for the material. Villeneuve was officially hired as director in February 2018, with plans to adapt the novel into a two-part film series. Legendary and Warner Brothers secured a two-film deal with Villeneuve, modeled after the successful two-part adaptation of Stephen King's It in 2017 and 2019. The film's crew included key returning members from the first installment. Joe Walker as editor. Brad Riker as supervising art director. Patrice Vermette as production designer. Paul Lambert as visual effects supervisor. Gerd Nefzer as special effects supervisor. Thomas Struthers as stunt coordinator. Dune. Part 2 was produced by Villeneuve, Mary Parent and Cale Boyder, with a team of executive producers including Tanya Lapointe, Brian Herbert, Byron Merritt, Kim Herbert, Thomas Tull, John Spates, Richard P. Rubenstein, John Harrison, and Herbert W. Gain. Kevin J. Anderson served as a creative consultant. Securing the sequel. Legendary CEO Joshua Grode confirmed plans for a sequel in April 2019, noting the logical midpoint to divide the story. However, uncertainty loomed in December 2020, when Warner Brothers announced plans to release films simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max. Villeneuve sequel. Despite this, confidence grew with indicators such as the Dune Part 1 title in early IMAX screenings, which hinted at plans for continuation. Villeneuve voiced enthusiasm for returning to work with Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, promising a larger role for Chani in the sequel. Warner Brothers assured Villeneuve that strong performance on HBO Max would secure the sequel. Just before Dune 2021's release, Warner Brothers CEO and Sarnoff hinted strongly at plans for a sequel, citing the film's ending as indicative of more to come. On October 26, 2021, Legendary officially greenlit Dune Part 2, attributing the decision to Villeneuve's vision, the efforts of the cast and crew, and fan support. Pre-production began promptly, with Villeneuve and his wife Tanya Lapointe traveling to Budapest to prepare. Villeneuve insisted on a theatrical exclusivity window as a non-negotiable condition, securing a 45-day window before other distribution channels. Accelerated production. Villeneuve aimed to start filming as soon as possible, leveraging the groundwork from the first film to expedite production. Principal photography was projected to begin in late 2022, with Villeneuve emphasizing the importance of maintaining the momentum established by Dune, 2021. Eric Roth was hired in April 2017 to co-write the screenplay for the Dune films, later joined by John Spates and Denis Villeneuve. The team worked collaboratively to adapt Frank Herbert's dense narrative for the screen, with Villeneuve ensuring the story retained its depth while being accessible to new audiences. David Peterson, known for creating the languages of Game of Thrones, developed languages for the film, including Chicopsa, used extensively by the actors. In November 2019, Spates stepped down as showrunner of the spin-off series Dune. Prophecy to focus entirely on Dune, Part 2. By February 2021, Roth had completed a full treatment for the sequel, allowing Villeneuve to begin detailed scripting in August. Villeneuve confirmed early on that Feyd-Rautha, a pivotal character from the novel, would appear in the film. By March 2022, Villeneuve had largely finished the screenplay, with Craig Mazin and Roth contributing additional literary material to refine the narrative. Narrative direction. Villeneuve envisioned Dune, Part 2 as a continuation that would directly pick up where the first film left off, describing it as an epic war movie with greater focus on action and spectacle compared to the contemplative nature of the first. He sought to anchor the narrative in the evolving relationships of its central characters, particularly Paul Atreides and Chani. Villeneuve framed their bond as an epic love story, emphasizing Chani's role as Paul's moral compass and her skepticism of the Freeman prophecy. Zendaya remarked on the challenge of portraying futuristic romantic dialogue, while Chalamet highlighted how Paul's growing dependence on Chani shaped his transformation. The script transitioned between perspectives, initially presenting their romance through Paul's eyes before shifting to Chani's perspective. Villeneuve aimed to highlight Paul's descent into ambition and moral ambiguity, aligning with Frank Herbert's portrayal of Paul as an antihero destined for a darker path. Expanding characters. Villeneuve expanded Chani's role, interpreting her as a critique of power and positioning her as a counterbalance to Paul's ambitions. He also reworked Lady Jessica's character, portraying her as a traumatized survivor driven to fulfill the Bene Gesserit's grand designs, even at a moral cost. Jessica's relationship with Chani was intentionally fraught, reflecting tensions between Freeman culture and the Bene Gesserit's manipulations. Villeneuve similarly enriched Princess Irulan's character, focusing on her intelligence and her fear of her father's diminishing authority. Florence Pugh, who portrayed Irulan, described her as reserved but perceptive, playing a quiet yet vital political role. Themes and symbolism. Villeneuve stayed true to Herbert's themes, using the script to explore the corrupting nature of power and Paul's eventual transformation into a dark messianic figure. Drawing inspiration from Katsuhiro Otomo's Akira, 1988. He storyboarded sequences to emphasize Paul's gradual moral deterioration. Villeneuve used Paul's interactions with Freeman culture, such as his initiation as Muad'Dib, to parallel his evolution from a humble refugee to a manipulative leader. The narrative also delved deeper into the Harkonnen family dynamics. Villeneuve contrasted the brutish rabbin with the cunning Feyd-Rautha, who was portrayed as both a product of the Bene Gesserit's breeding program and an ambitious foil to Paul. Austin Butler, who played Feyd-Rautha, described his character as an arrogant and disciplined warrior shaped by GD Prime's harsh environment. Villeneuve highlighted Feyd-Rautha's brutality and psychopathy while acknowledging his reverence for combat. Pivotal scenes. The sandworm riding sequence was a major focus for Villeneuve, who relied on his own storyboards to visualize the scene, calling it one of his favorites in the film. The sequence involving Paul's consumption of the water of life was reimagined to heighten narrative tension. Villeneuve compressed the timeline of Lady Jessica's pregnancy to introduce an adult Alia during this scene, depicting her as a foreboding presence. Conversations between Jessica and the unborn Alia underscored her supernatural awareness, positioning Alia as a unique and unsettling character. The film's climax, involving Paul's challenge to Emperor Shaddam IV and his duel with Phaedratha, was designed to highlight the tragedy of Paul's journey. Villeneuve crafted an ending that balanced resolution with foreshadowing, setting the stage for a potential third installment based on Dune Messiah. In March 2022, reports surfaced that Florence Pugh and Austin Butler were in talks to join the cast as Princess Irulan and Phaedratha, respectively. Butler was offered the role during a casual coffee meeting with director Denis Villeneuve and accepted without auditioning. To prepare for the role, Butler underwent a rigorous 4-month training program in Budapest, designed by a former Navy SEAL, to embody Fade's physicality. Villeneuve described Butler's performance as a mix of a psychopathic killer, an Olympic sword master, a snake, and Mick Jagger. Butler drew inspiration from Gary Oldman, Heath Ledger, and even Stellan Skarsgård's portrayal of the Baron, mimicking the Baron's voice to reflect Fade's upbringing under his influence. Christopher Walken joined the cast in May 2022 as Emperor Shaddam IV, followed by Léa Seydoux in negotiations for Lady Margot Fenring in June. In July, Suhaila Yacoub was cast as Shishakli, a Freeman warrior and Cheney's ally. In January 2023, Tim Blake Nelson joined the cast in an undisclosed role, and at the film's February 2024 London premiere, Anya Taylor-Joy confirmed her involvement, surprising even Villeneuve, who had kept her role a secret for over a year. Filming, pre-production, and locations. Filming commenced with pre-shooting on July 4, 2022, at the Brian Tomb in Altavol, Italy. Principal photography began on July 18 in Budapest, Hungary, with Villeneuve and cinematographer Greg Fraser employing ARRI Alexa LF cameras and incorporating new filming locations to avoid repetition. Key desert scenes were filmed in Abu Dhabi and Namibia, with the latter chosen for its barren, arid landscapes. Notably, the production filmed during the October 25, 2022, partial solar eclipse, using the phenomenon for a key opening battle between the Harkonnens and Freemen. Key scenes and techniques. Paul and Cheney's romance. Romantic scenes between Paul and Cheney were filmed in remote Jordanian locations during the golden hour to capture the surreal desert light. With only about an hour of shooting time per day, these moments were carefully choreographed for efficiency and emotional resonance. Sandworm Ride. The iconic sandworm ride sequence was filmed using practical effects. Chalamet performed his scenes atop a platform designed to mimic the sandworm's texture, while industrial fans and artificial sand created the illusion of a windswept desert. The scenes spanned over 3 months, requiring the cast to physically visualize the sandworm during filming. Gladiator Arena. Phaedratha's gladiatorial debut was shot with black and white infrared cameras to achieve a distinct visual effect. Butler spent a week filming the scene, improvising a chilling kiss with the Baron. The arena, meticulously designed with over 30 sections for spectators, created a feverish atmosphere of cheers and stomps under sweltering conditions, with some crew members fainting from the heat. Paul versus Phaedratha. The climactic duel between Paul and Phaedratha was choreographed with Kali-inspired techniques. Both Butler and Chalamet trained extensively with a Los Angeles-based Kali instructor before rehearsing together in Budapest. They performed all the stunts themselves, including wide-angle shots. Chalamet's performance featured a monologue delivered entirely in Chicopsa. Unique scenes. Rebecca Ferguson highlighted Lady Jessica's transformation during the Reverend Mother process as her favorite scene. Ferguson worked alongside contortionists to portray Jessica's physical and spiritual metamorphosis, likening the process to a scene from The Exorcist. Completion. Filming wrapped on December 12, 2022. Despite challenges, Villeneuve took advantage of the delays to produce a high-quality IMAX 70mm transfer. Florence Pugh completed her scenes in November, including delivering Princess Irulan's opening narration. Anya Taylor-Joy's scenes were filmed in Namibia, adding to the film's unique visual textures. This careful attention to casting, filming, and practical effects ensured that Dune Part 2 stayed true to Villeneuve's vision while pushing the boundaries of epic storytelling. Music. Hans Zimmer returned to score Dune Part 2, continuing his collaboration with Denis Villeneuve after composing the soundtrack for the first film. Zimmer began working on music for the sequel long before its announcement, creating over 90 minutes of compositions to inspire Villeneuve during the writing process. The soundtrack's first two singles, A Time of Quiet Between the Storms and Harvester Attack, were released on February 15, 2024, by Water Tower Music. The full album followed on February 23, offering an expansive auditory experience that complements the film's themes of epic conflict and introspection. Marketing, trailers, and promotions. The marketing campaign for Dune. Part 2 began with a teaser trailer during Warner Bros. CinemaCon panel on April 27, 2023. A teaser poster and first-look images of the cast followed on May 2, 2023, and the public trailer release came the next day. The trailer was widely praised, with Variety calling it breathtaking, GQ highlighting the sandworm riding sequence, and Fangoria declaring, "If you're not excited for this one, we don't know what to tell you." A second trailer premiered on June 29, 2023, showcasing Christopher Walken's Emperor Shaddam IV and Austin Butler's Phaedrotha. Critics lauded the trailer's scale and visual impact, with Empire praising its seismic and astounding imagery. At the December 2023 CCXP event, over 10 minutes of exclusive footage were presented by Villeneuve, Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya, Florence Pugh, and Austin Butler. Additional promotional footage appeared during an IMAX re-release of Tenet 2020, celebrating Warner Bros.' legacy, merchandise, and collaborations. Warner Bros. Partnered with various brands to create immersive experiences. Xbox collaboration. A special suite of Dune-themed Xbox designs and a Microsoft Flight Simulator expansion pack allowed players to explore Arrakis and pilot an ornithopter. Call of Duty crossover. The Sardaukar were added to Modern Warfare 2 in November 2023, with Paul and Phaedrotha becoming playable operators in Modern Warfare 3. McFarlane Toys. A line of 7-inch figures modeled after characters from the film was announced in September 2023. A unique marketing campaign included a collaboration with Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Freedom, resulting in an alternate movie poster featuring Gundam characters in place of Paul and Cheney. Social media and targeted audiences. Research by Nikolai Matthews of Vivo Media showed the film's TikTok campaign featured 117 posts, surpassing the first film's 108. Content featuring Zendaya and Chalamet, along with red carpet moments, resonated strongly with the platform's predominantly female user base. This strategy led to an 84% increase in engagement among superfans and a significant rise in the film's overall audience. Popcorn bucket meme. In January 2024, a sandworm-inspired popcorn bucket designed for AMC theaters went viral due to its striking resemblance to an artificial vagina. The meme spread rapidly on TikTok, garnering millions of views and making its way to late-night talk shows, including a musical parody on Saturday Night Live. Denis Villeneuve humorously called the bucket end insane marketing idea that sparked joy and laughter, while the New York Times noted its cultural phenomenon status, likening its appeal to perverse fascination. AMC sold the collectible for $175 on resale markets and announced plans to continue creating themed popcorn buckets. The viral success even inspired Marvel Studios to release a similarly provocative bucket for Deadpool and Wolverine. While Ryan Reynolds and Kevin Feige embraced the humor of their design, Villeneuve maintained that the Dune bucket was one-of-a-kind reception. The extensive marketing efforts for Dune Part 2 not only elevated anticipation for the film but also cemented its cultural impact, blending epic storytelling with creative promotional strategies that captured the public's imagination. Release. Dune. Part 2 faced several release schedule changes. Initially set for October 20, 2023, the film was first delayed to November 17, 2023, then moved up slightly to November 3, 2023, in response to shifts in other studio release calendars. However, due to the 2023 Hollywood labor disputes, its release was postponed again, this time to March 15, 2024. Following the resolution of the strikes, the release date was brought forward once more to March 1, 2024. The film was released in IMAX 15 perforation 70mm format at 12 venues globally, following the success of Oppenheimer, 2023, in this format. Additionally, It was presented in the standard 5 perforation 70mm format at 38 venues worldwide. World premieres. February 6, 2024. Dune. Part 2 had its world premiere at the Auditorio Nacional in Mexico City. February 15, 2024. A second premiere was held at Odeon Lux Leicester Square in London. Special screening. On January 16, 2024, Denis Villeneuve and producer Tanya Lapointe arranged a special screening for a dying man in Saguenay, Quebec, who had expressed a wish to see the film before his death. After learning of the man's desire through a viral Facebook post, Villeneuve offered to bring the film to the man in person, but as he was too weak to travel, an assistant delivered the film on a private laptop. The screening took place in a room at a palliative care facility, where cell phones were collected and attendees signed waivers. Although the man was too ill to watch the entire film, he saw part of it before passing away on January 25, 2024. The screening was later referred to by CBC as the actual world premiere of the film. The public disclosure of this special screening came after the theatrical release of Dune. Part 2, highlighting a deeply personal moment for the filmmaker and the film's impact. Character analysis. Dune, Part 2. In Dune, Part 2, the deep and multifaceted characters of the epic saga come to the forefront as they navigate the desert planet Arrakis, where power struggles, political intrigue, and personal growth define their trajectories. As the film delves deeper into the conflict between House Atreides and House Harkonnen, the characters evolve, revealing the complex motivations and vulnerabilities that shape their actions. From Paul Atreides' journey to accepting his destiny to Phaedroth's thirst for power, each character embodies themes of loyalty, survival, and transformation. Below is an exploration of key characters and the psychological, emotional, and existential forces that guide them through this second chapter of the saga. Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet. Paul Atreides' character arc is perhaps the most significant in Dune, Part 2. In the first film, Paul was thrust into a world of politics, warfare, and prophecy, unable to fully comprehend the weight of his destiny as the potential Kwisatz Haderach, the prophesied figure of immense power who could lead the Fremen in a revolution. In this sequel, Paul has grown both in stature and in internal conflict. He is no longer just the son of Duke Leto, trying to survive the aftermath of his house's downfall. He is increasingly aware of the role he is meant to play in the universe's grander scheme, though this awareness comes at the cost of his personal freedom. Paul is a reluctant messiah. His struggles with his prescient abilities, his role in the Fremen prophecy, and his connection to the desert planet and its people weigh heavily on him. Despite being an extraordinary leader, he is still a young man struggling with the burden of being viewed as a godlike figure and the consequences that come with it. His relationship with his mother, Lady Jessica, is complicated. She pushes him toward his destiny, but Paul seeks a sense of autonomy and agency that seems impossible in the face of what is expected of him. His growing fear of becoming the tyrant the prophecy foretells clouds his judgment at times, creating a tension between his sense of duty and his desire for normalcy. Paul's romantic and personal connection with Chani also evolves. It is not just a bond of love but also one of survival, as Paul's leadership and his relationship with Chani are increasingly central to the Fremen's uprising. Yet, even in their shared moments, there's a quiet, underlying tension. Paul knows that to become the ruler he will have to make impossible choices, potentially sacrificing his own humanity. As the film progresses, Paul realizes that his journey is not just about fighting for control of Arrakis, but about reconciling the prophecy with his own will and identity. His arc represents the painful path from boyhood to godhood, filled with paradoxes that ultimately leave him questioning the very nature of power. Chani, Zendaya. Chani, as portrayed by Zendaya, becomes far more than just Paul's love interest in Dune. Part 2, she is a fierce, capable warrior and a key figure in the narrative. While her role in the first film was relatively limited, this sequel allows her to step into the spotlight. She embodies the strength of the Fremen people and their culture, representing both the fierce survival instinct of her desert world and the deep loyalty she feels toward Paul and the Fremen cause. Chani is a woman caught between love and duty. She is passionate about the cause of the Fremen, but her devotion to Paul makes her journey more complex. In Dune, Part 2, she takes on the role of Paul's confidant and guide, helping him understand his place among the freemen. However, the relationship between them is also one of tension, as Chani knows that the prophecy around Paul's rise to power will come at great personal cost to him, and potentially to her as well. She is deeply loyal to him, but she also harbors a sense of pragmatism, aware that the desert demands more than just affection. It demands survival, even at the cost of one's dreams. Chani is not just an emotional anchor for Paul. She also carries her own ambitions and frustrations. While she loves Paul deeply, she is also a seasoned fighter who has seen the bloodshed of the Freeman cause firsthand. Her character represents the strength of the desert women, who are both nurturing and fierce in their resistance to the imperial forces. Zendaya's portrayal of Chani captures the intensity of a woman who is willing to fight for what she believes in, even if it means sacrificing her personal desires. Lady Jessica, Rebecca Ferguson. Lady Jessica's character in Dune, Part 2 is one of the most complex and layered in the saga. As the mother of Paul, she is both a source of strength and a catalyst for his growth. But Jessica is also a character full of contradictions. She is fiercely protective of Paul, yet she is the one who has pushed him into the role of the Kwisatz Haderach. A member of the Bene Gesserit, a secretive order of women trained in advanced mental and physical disciplines, Jessica embodies the tension between personal loyalty and the larger political schemes of the Bene Gesserit. She defies her order by bearing a son instead of a daughter, a choice that shapes the entire destiny of the universe. In Dune, Part 2, Lady Jessica's allegiance to Paul is tested. She has always acted out of love and maternal instinct, but her duty to the Bene Gesserit compels her to consider the larger implications of Paul's rise. Her role as a mentor to Paul is fraught with tension, as she understands the dangers of his power and the weight of the decisions he must make. Despite her considerable political and personal struggles, Jessica remains a crucial force for the Freemen and Paul's leadership, standing as an emotional cornerstone for Paul even as she contemplates the consequences of his destiny. Ferguson's performance delves into Jessica's internal conflict. She is a woman driven by love, duty, and survival, and these competing forces constantly drive her decisions. Her character is one of the emotional and moral complexities of the film, torn between loyalty to Paul, her mission, and the Bene Gesserit's cold logic. Phaedratha, Austin Butler. Austin Butler's portrayal of Phaedratha in Dune, Part 2 is one of the most highly anticipated elements of the film. Phade, the heir to House Harkonnen, is the polar opposite of Paul in many ways. While Paul is seen as a reluctant leader, Phade is a man driven by ambition, cruelty, and a desire to take control of Arrakis. He represents the dark side of power, ruthless, calculating, and utterly devoid of empathy. His intense ambition and thirst for control make him a dangerous adversary to Paul. Phade's character is driven by an overwhelming desire for revenge and recognition. As a nephew to the Baron Harkonnen, Phade sees himself as a natural successor to the Harkonnen Empire, and he views Paul as an obstacle to his ascendancy. However, his cruel and ambitious nature makes him a compelling foil to Paul, who must ultimately face him in a climactic battle. What makes Phade particularly dangerous is his ability to charm and manipulate others, masking his deep cruelty with a charismatic, almost theatrical persona. Butler's performance is key to bringing out the complexities of Phade's personality. His portrayal captures the character's sense of entitlement, his savagery, and his belief in his own superiority. At the same time, there are moments where the cracks in his persona show, revealing a man driven by deep insecurity and fear. Phade is a character torn between the legacy of his house and the harsh, brutal environment that has shaped him. He represents the destructive side of ambition, the pursuit of power without regard for the cost to others or oneself. Shaddam IV, Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken's portrayal of Emperor Shaddam IV in Dune, Part 2 is one of the film's most intriguing characterizations. As the ruler of the known universe, Shaddam is both a puppet master and a man caught in the webs of political intrigue. He sits at the apex of the political structure, but his rule is precarious. His decision to ally with House Harkonnen in their bid to destroy House Atreides is driven by fear and self-preservation. He knows that his power is not absolute and is constantly worried about his vulnerability, both politically and personally. Shaddam is a character whose primary motivation is to maintain control. His alliance with Baron Harkonnen and the betrayal of House Atreides are attempts to consolidate his rule, but these decisions come with a high price. Walken's portrayal of Shaddam highlights the Emperor's paranoia, his sense of entitlement, and his ultimate vulnerability. He is a man whose power is under threat on multiple fronts, and his attempts to maintain control lead to disastrous consequences for both himself and the universe. Conclusion. In Dune, Part 2, each character is shaped by their environment, their ambitions, and their relationships with one another. Paul Atreides is no longer the wide-eyed son of a noble house. He is a leader in the making, struggling to balance prophecy with personal agency. Chani stands beside him, embodying both love and duty. Lady Jessica grapples with loyalty and duty, while Phaedroth's ambition and cruelty make him a dangerous adversary. Emperor Shaddam IV, despite his supreme position, is a ruler in constant fear of losing everything. Each character's internal conflict and external actions play a pivotal role in the unfolding narrative, ensuring that Dune, Part 2 is a rich, character-driven epic about survival, power, and destiny. The strangest facts about Dune, Part 2. Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2 has captivated audiences worldwide with its sweeping visuals, complex characters, and a storyline that intertwines themes of power, destiny, and revolution. Beyond the grandeur of the screen, however, lies a treasure trove of fascinating behind-the-scenes facts, unusual occurrences during production, and little-known trivia that helped shape this cinematic epic. This article explores some of the strangest and most fascinating details that went into the making of Dune, Part 2, providing a glimpse into the challenges, surprises, and quirky moments that defined its creation. The making of a monumental sequel. The production of Dune, Part 2 was a journey that stretched over years, beginning shortly after the immense success of its predecessor, Dune, Part 1. Villeneuve's adaptation of Frank Herbert's iconic novel was so meticulously crafted that the decision to split the book into two parts was made early on. However, the process of bringing the second part of the story to life was far from straightforward, and the world that audiences saw on screen was the product of intense labor, groundbreaking special effects, and more than a few unexpected twists and turns. Here are some of the strangest facts from the making of this highly anticipated sequel. 1. Filming under intense conditions. One of the most significant challenges that the production faced was the extreme weather conditions on location. Much of Dune, Part 2 was filmed in remote, rugged locations, particularly in Jordan and Italy, where the team recreated the desolate desert landscape of Arrakis. While these locations provided the perfect visual backdrop, they also posed serious challenges for the cast and crew. The weather conditions in Jordan, for example, were so extreme that they experienced soaring temperatures that reached well over 40 degrees Celsius (104 degrees Fahrenheit). These scorching conditions made long hours of filming physically grueling, and the heat wave pushed the limits of both actors and crew members alike. Despite the harsh weather, these desert locations played a crucial role in creating the immersive world of Arrakis. The crew had to work around extreme weather fluctuations, from intense heat to sudden sandstorms. In fact, sandstorms were such a common occurrence during production in the desert locations that they became an unexpected part of the filmmaking process, often halting shooting for days at a time. In one particularly unusual incident, a sandstorm was so powerful that it nearly destroyed an entire set built for one of the film's pivotal sequences. The crew had to spend hours recovering the materials and rebuilding sections of the set, all while facing the relentless desert winds. 2. The Dune popcorn bucket meme. One of the more bizarre moments surrounding the film's production didn't come from a particularly dramatic scene on screen, but from the marketing department. In January 2024, a promotional Dune-themed popcorn bucket from AMC Theaters went viral after it was released ahead of the film's official debut. The design featured a sandworm-inspired container, which, for reasons that quickly became apparent, was compared to an artificial vagina by the online community. This comparison led to an outpouring of memes and jokes, creating an unexpected viral moment. The popcorn bucket design was so unique that it became a cultural talking point, with TikTok, Twitter, and other social media platforms erupting with laughter and commentary. Late-night shows even picked up on the phenomenon, including a musical sketch on Saturday Night Live poking fun at the bucket's unintended associations. AMC's chief content officer later admitted that they had not anticipated the viral sensation but embraced the fun, acknowledging that they would continue to produce collectible popcorn buckets in the future. The story of the popcorn bucket became so popular that even the film stars, including Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, were asked to comment on it during promotional interviews. Denis Villeneuve himself found humor in the situation, calling the bucket an insane marketing idea that nonetheless brought joy and laughter to audiences. The popcorn bucket's unexpected success illustrated how, in the age of social media, even the smallest details of a film's release can take on a life of their own. 3. A Dying Man's Final Wish, the first screening. In one of the most poignant moments surrounding the film's production, Dune, Part 2 was screened for a dying man in Quebec. The man, a longtime fan of the Dune saga, had expressed a wish to see the film before his death. He was in palliative care at a facility in the city of Saguenay when word of his desire reached the film's director, Denis Villeneuve. Villeneuve, who hails from Quebec, was deeply moved by the request and made arrangements for the man to see the film early. However, the man was too frail to travel, so Villeneuve personally arranged for an assistant to bring the film to him. The screening took place in a small room at the care facility, where strict confidentiality rules were enforced, and attendees were asked to sign waivers and surrender their phones. The man, despite being in considerable pain, watched the film with rapt attention. He managed to watch only half of the film before he was unable to continue, but he passed away a few weeks later, on January 25, 2024. This unique screening, described as the actual world premiere, was later disclosed publicly, with the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation reporting on it after the film's theatrical release. The act of kindness was a touching moment that resonated deeply with fans and cast members alike, showing the profound personal connection that the Dune saga held for many. 4. Timothée Chalamet's dramatic physical transformation. Timothée Chalamet, who reprises his role as Paul Atreides in Dune, Part 2, underwent a remarkable physical transformation for the role. As Paul moves further into his role as the leader of the Freemen and the hero of the revolution, Chalamet had to embody not only the character's growing authority but also his physical strength. The actor went through a rigorous training regimen to build the muscular physique necessary to portray a man who would lead an insurgency against the ruling powers of the universe. Chalamet, known for his lean frame, was determined to show Paul's evolution from a vulnerable, conflicted young man to a strong, determined leader. To achieve this, he worked closely with a personal trainer and nutritionist, focusing on a combination of strength training and endurance exercises. In fact, Chalamet reportedly put on nearly 20 pounds of muscle during the filming of Dune, Part 2, which drastically changed his physical appearance from the first film. The transformation was not without its challenges. The grueling physical demands of the role combined with long hours of filming in intense desert conditions took a toll on Chalamet's body. Nevertheless, the transformation became an essential part of Paul's evolution, allowing the actor to bring an added layer of believability and intensity to the role. 5. A record-breaking soundtrack. The film's soundtrack, composed by the legendary Hans Zimmer, was one of the most highly anticipated aspects of Dune, Part 2. Zimmer, who had already scored the first film, returned to create a new, atmospheric soundscape to accompany the sequel. What many fans might not know is that Zimmer composed over 90 minutes of music before the film's script was even finalized. This extensive pre-production work was done to help director Denis Villeneuve get a sense of the film's emotional beats and help him during the writing process. Zimmer's creative process was driven by the idea that music could influence and inspire the visual aesthetic of the film. As a result, he and Villeneuve worked closely together to shape the overall tone of the film through sound. In one of the most unusual moments during the soundtrack's creation, Zimmer reportedly experimented with instruments made from unconventional materials, including a large wind instrument that mimicked the sound of the desert winds. The process of creating the soundtrack became a labor of love for Zimmer, who even drew inspiration from the natural elements surrounding the film's desert locations. In addition to the film's traditional soundtrack, two singles, A Time of Quiet Between the Storms and Harvester Attack, were released in February 2024 to generate excitement for the film's release. These tracks, representing some of the key musical themes from the film, allowed fans to get an early taste of the haunting and immersive soundscape Zimmer had crafted. 6. The arrival of a new icon, Austin Butler's Phaedrotha, one of the most highly anticipated characters in Dune. Part 2 was Phaedrotha, portrayed by Austin Butler. The character, an ambitious and cunning member of House Harkonnen, is a stark contrast to Paul Atreides. In preparation for the role, Butler underwent extensive training, both in physical combat and with his voice. Butler, who had previously gained recognition for his role as Elvis Presley in Elvis, 2022, was determined to make Phaedrotha a memorable antagonist. His approach to the role involved deepening his understanding of the character's psychology and motivations. He spent hours researching the novel and discussing the character with Villeneuve. One of the more peculiar details about Butler's preparation was his voice training. To match Fade's cold and calculating personality, Butler worked with a vocal coach to master a distinctive tone that could convey both charm and menace. The process of finding the right voice for the character was described by Butler as one of the most challenging aspects of his performance, as it required balancing a sense of elegance with the character's inherent cruelty. In one of the film's more bizarre behind-the-scenes moments, Butler also spent hours perfecting his character's iconic fight sequences. To ensure that Fade's combat skills were believable and fierce, Butler trained in various forms of martial arts and sword fighting. Despite his relatively lean physique, the actor's commitment to the role was so intense that he ended up becoming a highly skilled combatant on set. 7. The unseen influence of Frank Herbert. While Denis Villeneuve's vision for Dune was undeniably crucial to the film's success, there was one other significant presence felt throughout the production: Frank Herbert, the author of the original Dune novel. Though Herbert passed away in 1986, his influence was deeply woven into every part of the film's production. Herbert's son, Brian Herbert, who co-authored numerous Dune prequel novels with Kevin J. Anderson, worked closely with the filmmakers to ensure that the vision of the films remained true to the original material. According to reports, the Herbert family was heavily involved in advising the production, offering guidance on both the narrative and thematic elements of the story. In one fascinating instance, Denis Villeneuve consulted Brian Herbert directly during the scripting process to clarify the nuances of the Bene Gesserit and their complex motivations. Brian reportedly provided invaluable insight into his father's vision, helping Villeneuve to stay true to the spirit of the original novel while still allowing for creative freedom in the adaptation. Conclusion. The making of Dune. Part 2 was a journey filled with challenges, surprises, and unique moments that contributed to its epic scale. From grueling filming conditions in the deserts of Jordan to viral popcorn buckets and personal acts of kindness, the production was as extraordinary as the story itself. These strange and fascinating facts serve as a testament to the dedication and creativity that went into bringing Frank Herbert's beloved saga to life, making Dune. Part 2 not only a cinematic achievement, but also a cultural phenomenon that will be remembered for years to come. Critical perspectives and movie events. Dune, Part 2. Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Part 2 is much more than a visually spectacular science fiction epic. It is a multifaceted exploration of power, identity, and survival. As the sequel to his 2021 film Dune, Part 1, it brings to life Frank Herbert's iconic novel in a way that pushes the boundaries of storytelling. Critical reactions to the film have been overwhelmingly positive, but the analysis of significant events within the movie reveals a deeper layer of complexity, reflecting both its thematic resonance and its emotional impact on viewers. These pivotal moments contribute not only to the unfolding narrative, but also to the film's larger cultural significance, providing an unforgettable cinematic experience. 1. The opening sequence, a world on the brink of chaos. The film opens with a scene that establishes the brewing tension on Arrakis, a desert planet that has been the focal point of conflict since the beginning of Herbert's Dune saga. This sequence, set amidst the aftermath of the Harkonnens' oppressive rule, sets the tone for the entire film. The imagery here is stark, emphasizing the rugged beauty of the desert landscape, but also hinting at the violent political forces at play. The Freemen, led by Paul Atreides, Timothée Chalamet, are preparing to launch a revolution against the Imperial forces, a battle for freedom that's been decades in the making. The opening scene is not only significant in terms of world building but also serves as a critical reflection of the themes of power and resistance that permeate the entire film. The tension between the colonized and the colonizers, the oppressed and the oppressors, is palpable. This moment is crucial in positioning Paul as a reluctant messianic figure who must reconcile his growing power with the heavy burden of responsibility it brings. Critics have highlighted this sequence as a perfect example of how Villeneuve uses visuals to communicate complex political and emotional themes without the need for excessive exposition. From a critical perspective, the opening also mirrors the conflicts in the real world. The struggles of marginalized groups, facing both external and internal challenges, resonate with contemporary political movements. In this way, Dune Part 2 succeeds in translating Herbert's timeless story into a reflection of modern societal struggles, making it relevant on a global scale. 2. Paul's transformation, power and prophecy. As the protagonist of Dune, Part 2, Paul Atreides is central to the narrative's emotional and thematic depth. Throughout the film, Paul's internal conflict between his inherited destiny and his desire for self-determination is explored in great detail. One of the most significant events in the film occurs when Paul confronts the realization that his rise to power, though seemingly inevitable, is fraught with moral ambiguity. In a critical analysis of Paul's evolution, the film grapples with the concept of prophecy and destiny. Paul is burdened with visions of a future he does not want to embrace, where his power as the Kwisatz Haderach, the Chosen One, leads to the violent and brutal conquest of the universe. This sense of fate and inevitability haunts him throughout the film, but it also gives rise to one of the most powerful emotional moments in the film: his decision to embrace the mantle of leadership, even though it costs him his own peace of mind. The emotional resonance of Paul's internal journey lies in the universal struggle for autonomy against predestination. In many ways, Paul's arc is a meditation on the weight of responsibility and the limits of individual agency. His transformation from a boy into a leader is marked by loss, grief, and the crushing realization that even the best of intentions can result in great harm. This is one of the most significant aspects of the film from a critical perspective, as it provides a poignant commentary on leadership and the moral complexities of wielding power. 3. Chani's role, the heartbeat of the Freeman resistance. Zendaya's character, Chani, who was introduced briefly in the first film, takes on a more prominent role in Dune. Part 2. Chani represents not only a love interest for Paul but also a vital force in the Freeman resistance. While much of the film's focus is on Paul, Chani's presence underscores the theme of collective resistance. She is a fierce fighter, a strategist, and, above all, a leader in her own right. Her relationship with Paul is fraught with tension, as their love is entwined with the destiny of their people and the consequences of their actions. In many ways, Chani serves as a mirror to Paul's character. While Paul is torn between his duty as a leader and his personal desires, Chani's role as a warrior is defined by her unwavering commitment to her people. Her steadfastness and resilience in the face of insurmountable odds provide an emotional anchor for Paul, grounding him when his thoughts veer too far into the abstract. From a critical standpoint, Chani's character highlights the intersection of love and duty. Her dynamic with Paul is not just about romantic tension but also about the shared responsibility they carry as the leaders of the Freemen. Critics have praised Zendaya's performance for infusing Chani with strength, wisdom, and vulnerability, making her an essential part of the film's emotional core. 4. The Sardaukar, a brutal force of imperial power. Another key event in Dune, Part 2, is the arrival of the Sardaukar, the ruthless elite soldiers of the Emperor. Their presence signals the escalation of conflict, as they represent the full might of the imperial forces that Paul and the Freemen must contend with. The Sardaukar are a terrifying force, trained to be merciless, and their actions demonstrate the extent of the Emperor's desperation to maintain control over Arrakis and its valuable spice. The Sardaukars' involvement in the film adds a layer of political intrigue and heightens the stakes of the revolution. Their brutal tactics and unflinching loyalty to the Emperor underscore the theme of the oppressive nature of power. Critically, their presence challenges the Freemen to consider the cost of their resistance. Will they fight for freedom at the expense of their humanity? Or will they find a way to overthrow the imperial regime without losing themselves in the process? The Sardaukar also serve as a catalyst for Paul's transformation. Their battle with the Freemen forces him to confront his role as both a leader and a conqueror. In the face of such overwhelming opposition, Paul's struggle to maintain his morality while seeking justice becomes even more pronounced. The Sardaukar, with their cold precision and unyielding cruelty, represent the oppressive systems that Paul must dismantle, even as he risks becoming what he hates in the process. 5. The final battle, Rebellion and Revolution. The climactic Battle of Dune. Part 2 marks the culmination of the Freemen's struggle against the forces of imperialism. The desert dunes, once a place of survival, become the battleground for freedom. This final showdown is a visual and emotional spectacle, blending intense action with the profound personal stakes of the characters involved. Critically, the final battle encapsulates the film's central themes of revolution, sacrifice, and the cost of war. As the Freemen fight for their freedom, they must also confront the fact that even victory will come with significant losses. Paul's role as a leader is put to the test, and the consequences of his actions throughout the film come crashing down. He is no longer just a prince or a messiah. He is a symbol of the revolution, a symbol that will either bring salvation or doom, depending on how the war unfolds. This battle serves as a turning point for Paul, as he is forced to make difficult decisions that will affect not only the future of Arrakis but the entire universe. It is in this moment that the film's emotional resonance reaches its peak. The stakes are no longer abstract but deeply personal, affecting every character involved in the struggle. This event solidifies Dune. Part 2 is a film not just about grand political movements but about the personal toll of revolution, where every victory is laced with grief. 6. Themes of power, prophecy, and identity. At the heart of Dune, Part 2 lies an exploration of themes that are as relevant today as they were when Herbert wrote his novel. The film delves deep into the nature of power, examining how it corrupts and shapes those who wield it. Paul's journey is a meditation on the complexities of leadership as he grapples with the consequences of his power. Despite his desire to bring peace, he realizes that his rise to power is marked by violence and bloodshed. The film also explores the idea of prophecy and identity. Paul's vision of the future is a double-edged sword. While it allows him to foresee the potential outcomes of his decisions, it also traps him in a cycle of fate that he cannot escape. The emotional depth of this struggle is magnified by the film's intricate character development, particularly Paul's growing realization that he may not be able to avoid the destruction his power will bring. The interplay between personal identity and external expectations is another critical theme. As Paul takes on the mantle of leader, he must reconcile his sense of self with the role that is thrust upon him. This thematic exploration of identity resonates with viewers on a deep emotional level, as it reflects the universal struggle of finding one's place in the world while confronting external pressures. 7. Emotional resonance. A story of loss, sacrifice, and survival. Finally, the emotional resonance of Dune. Part 2 lies in its portrayal of loss and sacrifice. Throughout the film, characters are forced to make choices that will alter the course of their lives forever. Paul's evolution from a young prince to a hardened leader is marked by his experiences of loss, of loved ones, of innocence, and of peace. The weight of his decisions is felt not only by him but by the people around him. The emotional impact of the film is amplified by the relationships between its characters. Paul's bond with Chani, his strained relationship with his mother Jessica, and his complex dynamic with his mentor Stilgar all contribute to the film's emotional depth. These personal connections, in the midst of grand political upheaval, remind viewers that the stakes of Dune. Part 2 are not just about control over a planet or a people, but about the human cost of revolution and the enduring power of love and loyalty. In conclusion, Dune. Part 2 is more than just a science fiction epic. It is a film that tackles profound themes of power, identity, prophecy, and sacrifice. The critical perspectives on key events in the film reveal the intricacies of its narrative and emotional resonance. Through Paul's journey, the film explores the moral complexities of leadership and the cost of revolution. As the characters confront their destinies, Dune. Part 2 leaves an indelible mark on the viewer, offering not only a visually stunning spectacle but a profound emotional experience. Production insights and fun facts. Dune. Part 2. The creation of Dune. Part 2 was a monumental undertaking, marked by artistic ambition, technical innovation, and the dedication of a vast team of filmmakers and artists. As the sequel to Denis Villeneuve's 2021 blockbuster Dune, it had big shoes to fill, not just in terms of continuing the story, but also in maintaining the cinematic grandeur and thematic depth that made the first film such a critical success. The journey from script to screen was filled with fascinating behind-the-scenes stories, innovative filmmaking techniques, and a surprising number of fun facts that demonstrate the lengths to which the filmmakers went to bring the world of Dune to life. 1. Denis Villeneuve's vision, building on the foundation. Denis Villeneuve, known for his meticulous approach to filmmaking, was determined to maintain the thematic and visual continuity of Dune. Part 2. The director, who had spent over a decade trying to bring Frank Herbert's science fiction epic to the big screen, knew that creating a satisfying continuation of the first film required a deep understanding of the source material. For Villeneuve, Dune wasn't just about creating a visually stunning spectacle. It was about creating an emotional and intellectual experience for the audience. Villeneuve began working on the film's script even before the first movie had been released, eager to get a head start on what would be an epic and deeply complex sequel. This foresight helped ensure that Dune. Part 2 was not just a continuation of the plot, but also a deeper exploration of the characters and themes. Villeneuve famously said that the first film served as an introduction to the universe, while the second would dig into the story's more intense, personal conflicts. In many ways, Villeneuve's approach was a masterclass in how to build on the foundation of an established work while maintaining a sense of originality. He worked closely with the original film's cinematographer, Greg Fraser, to ensure the aesthetic continuity between the two films. Their partnership helped create a seamless visual experience, whether through sweeping shots of the desert landscape or the intimate moments of character development. 2. Expanding the world, practical effects and location filming. One of the most striking aspects of Dune, Part 2, is its world building. The desert planet of Arrakis, already stunning in the first film, becomes even more expansive and intricate in the sequel. 2. The casting of Dune. Part 2 was another integral part of the film's success. Villeneuve, who had worked with many of the actors in the first film, knew that the right performances would be crucial in bringing Herbert's complex characters to life. This time, however, he expanded the cast to include several new characters, all of whom were equally vital to the story. Timothée Chalamet returned as Paul Atreides, the reluctant hero caught between his destiny and his own desires. Chalamet's performance in Dune. Part 1 had been widely praised for its emotional depth, and his return in the sequel was highly anticipated. Villeneuve knew that Paul's evolution as a character, from a young, naive prince to a hardened leader, would require a significant emotional investment from Chalamet. The actor's dedication to the role was evident in the way he portrayed Paul's growing inner conflict, as well as his complex relationships with the other characters. Zendaya, who had a limited role in the first film, was given a much more prominent presence in Dune. Part 2 is Chani, the fierce Freeman warrior and love interest of Paul. Villeneuve made sure to expand her character's arc, allowing Zendaya to explore Chani's strength, vulnerability, and leadership qualities. The chemistry between Chalamet and Zendaya was palpable, and their partnership became one of the emotional cornerstones of the film. Zendaya's performance in the sequel was widely praised, with many critics noting how she brought a new depth to the character of Chani. One of the most exciting additions to the cast was Austin Butler, who played Phaedrotha, the dangerous and enigmatic Harkonnen heir. Butler's portrayal of Phade was both chilling and captivating, bringing a sense of menace and complexity to the character. Villeneuve's decision to cast Butler was rooted in the actor's ability to bring intensity to his roles, and this proved to be a key factor in making Feyd-Rautha a memorable antagonist. Another key casting decision was the inclusion of Christopher Walken as Emperor Shaddam IV. Walken's portrayal of the Emperor added an air of unpredictability to the film, as his character's motivations were far more complex than simply being an imperial figurehead. Walken's subtle yet commanding performance added depth to the political intrigue of the film, making the Emperor's involvement in the story more than just a plot device. 4. Challenges during production. The impact of the pandemic and labor strikes. The production of Dune, Part 2 was not without its challenges. The film was originally slated for release in 2023 but was delayed several times due to unforeseen circumstances, including the global pandemic and labor strikes in Hollywood. These events impacted the film's timeline, causing several adjustments to the shooting schedule. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the production was forced to pause for several months as health and safety protocols were implemented. Filming locations, many of which were in remote parts of the world, became difficult to access, and the safety of the cast and crew had to be prioritized. Despite these setbacks, Villeneuve and his team were determined to complete the film without compromising its quality. One particularly notable challenge was the Hollywood labor strikes that took place in 2023. The writers' and actors' strikes delayed the film's promotional efforts and caused some uncertainty regarding the film's release. However, Villeneuve remained focused on completing the final stages of production, and the film was ultimately released in 2024. These delays were frustrating for the cast and crew but also allowed them extra time to refine the film and ensure that every aspect was as polished as possible. 5. Innovative sound design. Hans Zimmer's musical genius. One of the standout features of Dune, Part 2 is its soundtrack, composed once again by Hans Zimmer. Zimmer, whose work on the first Dune film received widespread acclaim, returned for the sequel with the intention of creating a score that would elevate the emotional and thematic depth of the film. The composer's approach to the score was deeply influenced by the cultural and spiritual significance of the Fremen people, as well as the vast, desolate landscape of Arrakis. Zimmer's music, which blends traditional orchestration with modern electronic elements, plays a crucial role in setting the tone for the film. The use of vocals, synthesizers, and percussion reflects the harsh, unforgiving nature of Arrakis, while the more melodic moments convey the internal struggles of the characters. One of the most memorable aspects of the score is the way it shifts in tone and intensity, mirroring the rise and fall of the Fremen Rebellion and Paul's emotional journey. Behind the scenes, Zimmer's creative process was as intense as ever. The composer worked closely with Villeneuve to ensure that the score would complement the film's visual storytelling. Zimmer famously composed much of the music before the film was shot, providing Villeneuve with a musical guide that helped shape the emotional tone of the film. This collaboration between director and composer created a seamless integration between the film's visuals and its music, making the soundtrack an integral part of the cinematic experience. 6. Fun facts. The details that make Dune Part 2 unique. Beyond the major production milestones, there are countless fun facts and small details that contribute to the unique feel of Dune Part 2. For example, the sandworms, while mostly created through CGI, were also brought to life through practical effects. Some of the largest sandworm models used for the film were so massive that they had to be transported in specialized rigs to the filming locations. Another fun fact is that the ornithopters, which were integral to the film's action sequences, were partially designed by a team of engineers who worked to create realistic flight patterns. The design team spent months studying insect anatomy to ensure the ornithopter wings would move in a way that felt authentic. Villeneuve also made sure to pay homage to the Dune novels in subtle ways, such as by including references to the ecological themes of the books in the film's imagery. The sand dunes, for example, were meticulously crafted to reflect the harshness of Arrakis, with each shot carefully designed to evoke the sense of isolation and danger that defines the planet. Arrakis, previously introduced in Dune Part 1, is brought to life with even more detail and immersion in the sequel. The film's sweeping shots of sand dunes, vast canyons, and vast, empty stretches of desert not only establish the scale and isolation of the planet, but also reinforce the themes of power, resource control, and human struggle. The planet's environmental conditions, its extreme heat, violent sandstorms, and lack of water, are present throughout the film, constantly reminding the characters of their vulnerability. Arrakis is not just a place to conquer, but a world to endure, where those who attempt to dominate it must also reckon with its fury. In Dune, Part 2, Villeneuve continues to use the desert setting as a powerful tool in the film's emotional and narrative construction. The harsh sun and endless stretches of sand serve as a backdrop for Paul Atreides' growing realization of his destiny. As Paul's journey becomes more complex, the desert becomes a space of reflection and self-discovery, just as much as it is a space of external conflict. It represents both the internal and external forces that shape Paul's fate. The Freemen, who live in symbiosis with the desert, are another integral part of the setting, and their relationship with Arrakis reflects their deep cultural and spiritual connection to the planet. While Arrakis is visually stunning, it is also a place of danger, mystery, and awe. The landscape is filled with secrets, none more prominent than the sandworms, the gigantic creatures that burrow beneath the sand. The sandworms are not just menacing beasts. They are part of the ecosystem of Arrakis, embodying the planet's raw power. Their massive size and strength create a sense of awe and terror, underscoring the central theme of the human struggle to control what cannot be controlled. As the film progresses, the sandworms become symbols of both freedom and oppression, representing nature's power over human ambition. 2. The Freemen's home, sieges and hidden caverns. Within the desert, however, there are places of refuge and resilience. The Freemen, the native people of Arrakis, have learned to survive and thrive in the harsh desert environment, living in underground sieges. Cavernous, hidden spaces carved into the rock. These secret communities provide shelter from the brutal desert sun and serve as strongholds for the Freemen resistance against the ruling forces of Arrakis. In Dune, Part 2, the sieges become pivotal locations where characters such as Paul and Chani connect with the Freemen and begin their journey toward revolution. The sieges themselves are designed to reflect the Freemen's ingenuity and resilience. In the film, we see elaborate cave systems and complex water conservation technologies, such as still suits, which allow the Freemen to survive in the desert's scorching heat. These spaces feel organic, not artificial. Each siege is tailored to its environment and designed with both utility and survival in mind. The importance of water, not just as a physical resource but as a symbol of life and survival on Arrakis, is emphasized through these settings. The underground spaces also serve as a foil to the vast, open desert above. While the desert is unforgiving, harsh, and vast, the sieges are hidden sanctuaries where the Freemen can plan, communicate, and strategize. The contrast between the open desert and the hidden, more intimate world of the sieges serves to reinforce the themes of survival, rebellion, and hope. These underground spaces represent the quiet strength and unity of the Freemen people as they prepare for a greater battle against the forces that oppress them. The Freemen's underground world also becomes the site of crucial emotional moments in the film, as it is here that Paul comes to terms with his destiny and begins to solidify his leadership role among the Freemen. The underground sieges symbolize the resistance that Paul must rally, the foundation of power from which he will launch his rebellion. 3. Cinematography, a visual symphony of light and shadow. A hallmark of Dune, Part 2 is its breathtaking cinematography, spearheaded by the brilliant Greg Fraser, who also worked on the first film. Fraser's work on the film elevates it beyond just a spectacle. It allows the audience to experience the world of Dune in a deeply emotional and sensory way. The film's use of light and shadow plays a central role in creating mood, tone, and atmosphere, making every frame feel meticulously crafted and purposeful. The most obvious and striking use of cinematography is in the vast desert scenes. The wide, panoramic shots of Arrakis convey the sense of isolation and emptiness that defines the planet. The sand dunes stretch endlessly, mirroring the character's internal journey towards self-discovery and fulfillment. The use of light in these scenes, often with the sun directly overhead, creates a sense of harshness, emphasizing the unrelenting nature of the environment. The play of light and shadow in the desert scenes is used to enhance the character's struggles, whether it's the oppressive heat, the menace of the sandworms, or the looming political tensions. The use of natural lighting, especially in the scenes filmed on location in Jordan and Abu Dhabi, helps convey the authenticity of the landscape. Villeneuve chose to film many of the desert scenes in real-world locations, rather than relying solely on digital effects, to ensure that the desert had a tactile, real-world presence. The sun and shadows are not just visual elements. They are tools to reflect the characters' journeys. At times, the characters are bathed in light, symbolizing hope, clarity, or understanding. At other times, they are engulfed in shadows, representing conflict, fear, or doubt. In contrast to the vast desert, the indoor locations, especially those in the sieges or the palaces of the ruling houses, offer a more intimate and confined atmosphere. The use of dim lighting in these scenes creates a sense of secrecy, tension, and conspiracy. These darker, more enclosed spaces heighten the emotional stakes of the political intrigue unfolding on screen, offering a sharp contrast to the open desert scenes. Fraser's use of depth of field also plays a crucial role in shaping the mood and tone of the film. In scenes of action or conflict, the camera often pulls back to capture the sweeping grandeur of the landscape, emphasizing the scale of the character's struggles. In quieter, more introspective moments, the camera narrows its focus on the characters' faces, drawing attention to their emotions and internal conflict. This use of perspective creates an emotional connection between the audience and the characters, helping to heighten the stakes of their decisions and actions. 4. The ornithopters and the sky, symbols of freedom and control. One of the film's most iconic visual elements is the ornithopter, the insect-like flying machine used by the Atreides and other factions to travel across the desert. The ornithopters are not just modes of transportation. They are symbols of human ingenuity, power, and freedom. Their design, inspired by the wings of dragonflies, is functional yet beautiful, reflecting the complex relationship between humanity and the environment of Arrakis. The ornithopters are often seen soaring through the sky, their wings beating against the wind, offering a sense of freedom and movement. However, their presence in the sky also serves to remind the audience of the oppressive forces at play. The Atreides' use of ornithopters to traverse the vast desert represents their attempt to assert control over Arrakis, even as they are at the mercy of the planet's natural elements. The ornithopters are at once tools of freedom and instruments of power, further complicating the narrative's exploration of authority, control, and resistance. 5. Final thoughts. The cinematic landscape of Dune Part 2. The settings and cinematography of Dune Part 2 do more than just create a visually stunning experience. They deepen our understanding of the story, themes, and characters. The vast desert landscape of Arrakis becomes more than just a setting. It is a living, breathing character that shapes the journey of Paul Atreides and the fate of the Fremen. The intricacies of the sieges and the hidden caverns of the Fremen further develop the contrast between resistance and oppression, survival and exploitation. Through the artful cinematography of Greg Fraser, the film's visual style becomes a language in itself, enhancing the emotional resonance of each scene. The emotional resonance of each scene. The meticulous attention to detail in the design of locations, the careful use of light and shadow, and the symbolic power of the ornithopters are just a few of the ways in which Dune Part 2 draws the audience into its world. Through its settings and cinematographic elements, the film becomes more than just a visual spectacle. It becomes an immersive experience that enhances our emotional and intellectual engagement with the story, creating a lasting impact that lingers long after the credits roll. Behind-the-scenes insights. Dune Part 2. The world of Dune Part 2 is not just a place of epic battles, political intrigue, and larger-than-life landscapes. It is a world brought to life through the combined efforts, struggles, and creativity of an incredibly talented cast and crew. The making of the film was a journey that involved overcoming numerous challenges, bringing together a diverse team of filmmakers, artists, and actors, and pushing the limits of what is possible in cinema. From the dust-filled desert sets to the technical feats required to bring the world of Arrakis to life, the behind-the-scenes stories are as captivating as the finished product itself. As we peel back the curtain, we uncover the stories, the moments of surprise, and the difficulties that shaped the making of Dune. Part 2. Making it a monumental cinematic achievement. 1. The challenges of filming in the desert. Filming Dune. Part 2 was no small feat, particularly when it came to capturing the vast desert landscapes of Arrakis. A significant portion of the film was shot on location in Jordan and Abu Dhabi, where the filmmakers faced extreme heat, harsh terrain, and unpredictable weather conditions. The scale of the desert itself was daunting. Its vastness seemed to stretch endlessly, creating an almost surreal environment for the cast and crew. For the actors, the heat was an oppressive force that made even the simplest tasks difficult. Timothée Chalamet, who plays Paul Atreides, recalls his experiences filming in the unforgiving desert heat. "It was intense," he says. "I remember being in full costume, sweating under the hot sun for hours. The heat was brutal, but it really brought a sense of authenticity to the experience." The filmmakers made sure to embrace the harsh conditions, knowing that the elements of the desert would bring a sense of realism and immersion to the final product. The sandstorms, the blistering sun, and the constant battle with dehydration all added layers of intensity to the actors' performances. Despite the challenges, the cast found a sense of camaraderie and resilience. Zendaya, who plays Chani, recalls how the experience brought everyone together. "We had to be there for each other. The desert was tough on everyone, but we all leaned on one another for support. It made us stronger as a team." The shared struggle in the desert became a bonding experience, and the sense of unity among the cast was palpable. Filming in such extreme conditions helped the actors tap into the emotions and struggles of their characters, creating a raw and powerful connection to the world of Arrakis. 2. The importance of practical effects. One of the standout features of Dune, Part 2, is its stunning visual effects, which were used to bring the massive sandworms, the ornithopters, and the vast desert landscapes to life. However, while visual effects were essential to the world building, the filmmakers made a conscious decision to rely heavily on practical effects whenever possible. Denis Villeneuve is known for his preference for practical effects over CGI, and Dune Part 2 was no exception. The use of real sets, real locations, and physical props lent an authenticity and weight to the film that would have been difficult to achieve with digital effects alone. One of the most challenging practical effects to achieve was the sandworm, one of the most iconic creatures in the Dune universe. The sandworms, which can grow to hundreds of meters long, are not just visual spectacles. They are integral to the film's story and world. In Dune Part 2, the filmmakers used a combination of animatronics, miniatures, and visual effects to create the massive creatures. A life-sized sandworm was built on set, and a team of skilled artists worked tirelessly to ensure that the creature's movements and interactions with the environment were as realistic as possible. The team also used drones to capture the sandworms in motion, creating a blend of physical and digital effects that made the creatures appear both real and awe-inspiring. Chalamet recalls his first encounter with the life-size sandworm. "It was unbelievable," he says. "I've never seen anything like it. The scale of it was mind-blowing, and it really helped me understand the gravity of the scene we were shooting. It felt like we were standing next to a living, breathing creature." The physical presence of the sandworm on set helped the actors connect to the spectacle of the scene, as they could physically interact with the creature rather than imagining it in front of a green screen. The ornithopters were another example of practical effects that brought an added layer of realism to the film. While the iconic flying machines in Dune Part 2 may look like something straight out of a science fiction dream, they were designed with practicality in mind. The ornithopters were built to function as real, mechanical machines, and the actors spent hours in flight simulators to get a feel for the movement and dynamics of the aircraft. These practical effects allowed the cast to experience the feeling of being in the machines, adding to their performances. "There's something special about being in the ornithopter on set," explains Zendaya. "You're not imagining it, you're actually in it. It gives you a sense of how your character would feel in that situation." 3. The intricacies of costuming and makeup. Another challenge the filmmakers faced was creating the distinct and complex costumes and makeup for the characters. The costumes in Dune Part 2 are more than just clothing. They are symbols of identity, power, and survival. The freemen wear steel suits that help them conserve moisture in the desert, and each of the noble families has a distinct style that reflects their cultural background and position in the power hierarchy. The steel suits, in particular, were a logistical challenge. Designed by costume designer Jacqueline West, the suits are both functional and futuristic, with every detail painstakingly crafted to reflect the harsh environment of Arrakis. The suits are made from a combination of rubber, leather, and synthetic fabrics, and each suit took several days to design and fit for each actor. The process was time-consuming, but the result was a set of costumes that felt both believable and iconic. The makeup, too, played a crucial role in creating the characters' identities. The production of Dune, Part 2 was marked by obstacles, extreme weather, technical challenges, and the inevitable delays that come with such a massive production. However, the crew remained committed to bringing Villeneuve's vision to life. The crew's dedication to the project was evident in every aspect of the filmmaking process. Cinematographer Greg Fraser, for example, worked tirelessly to capture the beauty and grandeur of Arrakis, often working long hours in the desert to get the perfect shot. We wanted to create something that felt real, something that felt like it had weight and texture, Fraser says. We didn't want it to just be a spectacle. We wanted it to be something that resonated emotionally with the audience. There were also moments when the filmmakers had to make creative decisions to overcome challenges. For instance, during a particularly difficult sequence in which the characters travel across a sandstorm, the team had to create an entire digital storm effect to enhance the sense of danger and disorientation. However, rather than relying entirely on CGI, the filmmakers used practical effects to simulate the wind and sand, blending them seamlessly with the digital elements to create a more grounded and immersive sequence. The challenges faced during filming only strengthened the resolve of the team. From the actors to the technical crew, everyone involved in Dune, Part 2 worked tirelessly to bring Villeneuve's vision to the screen. Despite the obstacles, the film ultimately emerged as a masterpiece, a testament to the resilience, creativity, and collaboration of its cast and crew. Through the long days in the desert, the logistical hurdles, and the surprising twists and turns, Dune, Part 2 was built on a foundation of passion and determination, a film that reflects the dedication of everyone involved in its creation. Themes and symbolism in Dune Part 2. In the vast and intricate world of Dune, Part 2, themes of power, survival, sacrifice, and destiny intertwine with the symbolism that resonates throughout the film. Denis Villeneuve's sequel continues to explore the depth and complexity of Frank Herbert's legendary science fiction saga, weaving together elements of philosophy, politics, religion, and ecology. Through the stunning visuals, the tense interpersonal dynamics, and the overarching storyline, Dune, Part 2 delves deep into the themes that define the world of Arrakis. From the Freeman's struggle for survival to the Atreides family's journey through destiny, the film uses symbolism not only as a storytelling device but also as a means of exploring the universal human experience. 1. The struggle for power and control. At the heart of Dune, Part 2 is the theme of power, its pursuit, its consequences, and the lengths to which people will go to attain it. In Dune, Part 1, we saw Paul Atreides grappling with his role as the heir to House Atreides and the weight of his family's legacy. In Part 2, Paul's journey takes a darker turn as he begins to confront the full scope of his destiny. Power is not just political power, but the power to control the future, to shape the universe, and to transcend human limitations. The conflict between the noble houses, Atreides, Harkonnen, and Carino, serves as a backdrop for the exploration of power. The Atreides family is marked by honor and a sense of duty, while the Harkonnens represent cruelty and a ruthless desire for control. The rivalry between these two families is not merely a battle for political supremacy, but a fight for ideological dominance. The Harkonnens seek to dominate Arrakis through exploitation, while the Atreides see themselves as liberators of the oppressed freemen, although they, too, will ultimately have to confront their own moral ambiguities. Paul's internal struggle with his destiny is closely tied to this theme of power. The visions he experiences, which were introduced in Part 1, continue to haunt him as he moves closer to his role as the Kwisatz Haderach, the prophesied figure who will have the power to change the course of history. But with power comes sacrifice, and Paul's path to ultimate power is fraught with ethical dilemmas. His relationship with Cheney deepens, but it is also tested by the overwhelming burden of his prophetic visions. To fully realize his destiny, Paul must reconcile his love for his people with the darker aspects of his emerging power. In this sense, the theme of power is also a meditation on responsibility. The more power Paul attains, the more he is forced to reckon with its consequences. The decisions he makes will shape the future of not just House Atreides but the entire galaxy, including the fate of the Freemen, whose faith in him and his family grows even as Paul struggles with the burden of their hopes. 2. Survival and adaptation. Arrakis is a harsh planet, a desert world where water is scarce, and survival is a constant battle. The theme of survival is central to the story of Dune, Part 2, and it manifests in both the physical and psychological struggles of the characters. The Freemen, a people who have adapted to the unforgiving environment of Arrakis, serve as the film's primary focus when it comes to the survival theme. Through their relationship with the land, the Freemen have developed a culture that values resilience, resourcefulness, and the ability to endure unimaginable hardship. For the Freemen, survival is not just about living through each day, but about preserving their identity and their way of life in the face of colonization and exploitation. The arrival of Paul Atreides on Arrakis symbolizes the promise of a better future for the Freemen, but it also brings with it the threat of change. As Paul's vision of his future becomes more clear, the Freemen's role in his destiny becomes ever more important. They are not just a people he has to lead to victory. They are a vital part of his struggle for survival. The Freemen's relationship with the spice melange is another key aspect of their survival. The spice, a substance that can extend life and expand consciousness, is the driving force behind the politics of the galaxy. But its extraction is fraught with danger, and the Freemen's ability to harvest it from the sandworms is crucial to their ability to survive both the political machinations of the great houses and the harsh realities of their desert world. For Paul, survival becomes a question of how much he is willing to sacrifice in order to secure a future for his people. His visions of the future present him with a grim choice. The price of victory is steep, and the survival of his people may come at the cost of his own humanity. The tension between personal survival and the survival of a people is a constant theme throughout the film, and it adds depth to Paul's struggle. 3. Sacrifice and the hero's journey. The theme of sacrifice is intricately woven into the narrative of Dune. Part 2. From the very beginning, Paul Atreides is. The film's rich symbolism serves as a powerful tool for exploring the film's themes. One of the most prominent symbols is the sandworm, which represents both the power and the danger of Arrakis. The sandworm is a creature of immense size and strength, and it serves as a metaphor for the planet itself. Untamable, unpredictable, and full of both beauty and peril. The sandworm also symbolizes the idea of transformation, as it is intimately connected to the spice melange and to the ecological cycle of the desert. The spice, in turn, is a symbol of power and control. It is the most valuable substance in the universe, and its extraction drives the politics of the galaxy. But the spice also represents the fragility of life on Arrakis, as it is only through the exploitation of the planet's resources that power can be maintained. The theme of ecological balance is woven into the symbolism of the spice, with the exploitation of the land serving as a metaphor for the destructive forces of colonization and environmental degradation. The duality of light and shadow is another key symbol in the film. The desert landscape is bathed in the harsh light of the sun, creating an atmosphere of stark contrast. The light and shadows reflect the inner struggles of the characters, especially Paul. His path is one of both illumination and darkness, as he seeks to uncover the truth of his destiny, while also grappling with the moral complexities of his actions. Finally, the recurring imagery of water, or the lack thereof, is a poignant symbol throughout Dune, Part 2. On a planet where water is scarce, the character's relationship with it becomes a metaphor for the struggle for survival and the ways in which scarcity drives human behavior. Water, or the lack of it, becomes a symbol of life itself, fragile, precious, and easily lost. Conclusion. The themes and symbolism of Dune, Part 2 are deeply intertwined with the narrative and characters, serving as both a lens through which to view the story and a means of deepening the emotional resonance of the film. Through the exploration of power, survival, sacrifice, and destiny, Villeneuve crafts a film that is not only a visual spectacle, but also a profound meditation on the human condition. The film's rich symbolism, from the sandworms to the spice, reinforces the philosophical and ecological themes that define Dune while adding layers of meaning that resonate long after the credits roll. Ultimately, Dune, Part 2 is a film that explores the complexities of power, the weight of destiny, and the sacrifices required to shape the future. Filmmaking techniques and box office production in Dune Part 2. The world of Dune, Part 2 is as much a product of visionary filmmaking techniques as it is of its source material. Denis Villeneuve's sequel to Dune continues to push the boundaries of what's possible in cinematic storytelling, creating a richly detailed, immersive experience that blends cutting-edge technology with time-tested artistic craftsmanship. The film's remarkable visual style, dynamic sound design, seamless editing, and immersive camera work are essential in transporting audiences to the harsh deserts of Arrakis and into the minds of its complex characters. Villeneuve and his crew worked tirelessly to create an atmosphere that feels simultaneously epic and intimate, using these filmmaking techniques to enhance the viewer's emotional connection to the story. But beyond the artistic considerations, Dune, Part 2 was also a mammoth production, with a hefty budget and high expectations placed upon it. Its success was not only contingent on the film's thematic depth and performances, but also on the technical mastery behind the camera, sound, and editing. This careful attention to filmmaking techniques played a pivotal role in shaping the movie's atmosphere and, ultimately, its box office performance. 1. Cinematography, creating a visual masterpiece. One of the most striking elements of Dune, Part 2 is its cinematography, a key element that drives the film's emotional and thematic resonance. Villeneuve, known for his mastery of visual storytelling, continues his collaboration with celebrated cinematographer Greg Fraser, whose work on the first Dune film earned him widespread acclaim. For Part 2, Fraser's role was instrumental in translating the expansive world of Arrakis onto the screen. The visual style of the film is defined by its sweeping landscapes, intricate attention to detail, and a palpable sense of scale that envelopes the viewer. In Dune, Part 2, the desert of Arrakis is more than just a backdrop. It's a living, breathing character in its own right. The choice to shoot on location, in both natural desert landscapes and on vast soundstages with practical sets, plays a crucial role in grounding the film in a sense of realism, despite its science fiction elements. The cinematography in Dune, Part 2 frequently contrasts vast, sweeping shots of the desolate desert with intimate, close-up moments that focus on the characters' internal struggles. A perfect example of this comes in the scenes involving the sandworms. The enormous, terrifying creatures of Arrakis are captured in wide, awe-inspiring shots that emphasize their sheer scale. These shots not only highlight the planet's dangerous beauty but also the fragility of humanity in a universe filled with such. Chalamet's dedication to the role is evident in his physical transformation as well. To portray a character who grows into his leadership role, Chalamet trained extensively with fight choreographers to become adept at using a variety of weapons. As he discussed in multiple interviews, the physicality of the role was just as important as the emotional depth. It's not just about the way Paul looks, Chalamet explained, it's about his mindset. How can you convey the mental journey through physicality? That's been the biggest challenge and reward for me. His commitment to portraying Paul's emotional journey was not only evident in his performance but also in the way he interacted with his fellow cast members, forming a bond that translated into the on-screen chemistry between Paul and Chani. 2. Zendaya Chani, a fierce leader. Zendaya's portrayal of Chani in Dune, Part 2 marks a significant development from her limited role in the first film. In the sequel, Chani emerges as a leader in her own right, playing a vital role in the Freemen's resistance against the forces of House Harkonnen. Zendaya's presence on screen is commanding, with her character moving from being a supportive figure in the first film to a key player in the political and military landscape of Arrakis. In interviews, Zendaya discussed the deepening of Chani's character arc. Chani is not just a love interest in this film, Zendaya said. She's a warrior, a strategist, and someone who is deeply connected to the land. She's also fiercely protective of Paul. I wanted to bring a sense of agency to her character, showing that she's more than capable of leading and making her own decisions. Zendaya's performance is marked by a subtle intensity, as she brings a quiet strength to Chani's complex emotions. Her chemistry with Chalamet is palpable, giving their relationship an authenticity that is crucial to the film's emotional depth. The film explores the tensions and alliances between the Freeman and Paul's growing role as a messianic figure, with Zendaya's Chani often standing as his moral compass, grounded in the desert culture that she holds so dear. Behind the scenes, Zendaya reflected on the grueling physical demands of filming the action sequences, particularly the scenes involving the sandworms. It was a mix of real, physical work and a lot of imagination, she explained, emphasizing how the crew used green screens to create the massive creatures. We had to pretend they were real, even though we were just looking at a bunch of dots. It's definitely one of the most unique experiences of my career. 3. Austin Butler Phaedrotha, the charismatic antagonist. A new addition to the cast in Dune. Part 2 was Austin Butler, known for his portrayal of Elvis Presley in Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, 2022. As Phaedrotha, the cunning and cruel nephew of Baron Harkonnen, Butler takes on a role that requires him to exude both charm and malevolence. His portrayal of Phaedrotha is charismatic yet unsettling, a figure driven by ambition and power, yet consumed by his own pride. In interviews, Butler spoke of how he approached the complexity of playing such a morally ambiguous character. Phaedrotha isn't just evil for the sake of being evil. There's a very real motivation behind his actions. He's been raised to believe he's the true heir to the Harkonnen legacy, Butler said. But there's a certain vanity and arrogance about him, which makes him all the more dangerous. Butler's portrayal of Phaedrotha was described by many critics as one of the standout performances in the film. His nuanced take on the character, which combined charm with underlying menace, added a layer of depth to the story. As he went toe-to-toe with Chalamet's Paul, it became clear that their rivalry was one of the emotional and thematic driving forces of the film. In interviews, Butler noted the importance of their final confrontation, both in terms of plot and personal stakes. It's not just a physical fight, he explained. It's about two people who are each struggling with their own sense of destiny. That's what makes it so intense. 4. Rebecca Ferguson, Lady Jessica, A Mother's Love. Rebecca Ferguson, who portrayed Paul's mother, Lady Jessica, in the first film, returned in Dune, Part 2 with an even greater sense of purpose. As a member of the secretive Bene Gesserit order, Lady Jessica is caught between her loyalty to her son and her allegiance to the political machinations of her order. In Part 2, Lady Jessica's role as a protector of Paul becomes even more pronounced, as she navigates the complex dynamics between the various factions vying for power on Arrakis. In her interviews, Ferguson opened up about the emotional stakes for her character. Jessica's love for Paul is her guiding force, she said. She's constantly torn between her duty to the Bene Gesserit and her devotion to her son. It's an impossible choice, and it weighs heavily on her throughout the film. Ferguson's portrayal of Jessica is one of internal conflict, as she tries to find a balance between her political duties and her maternal instincts. Ferguson's chemistry with Chalamet was vital in portraying the deep emotional bond between mother and son. The complexity of their relationship is explored in several key scenes, where Jessica's presence as a protector contrasts with Paul's increasingly ambitious goals. Ferguson brought vulnerability to her character, allowing Jessica's journey to resonate with audiences as she struggled with the choices she had made for her son's future. 5. Audience reviews, a resounding success. As Dune Part 2 premiered in theaters, the reactions from audiences were overwhelmingly positive, with many praising the film's visual splendor, immersive world-building, and compelling performances. From its opening weekend, it was clear that the film had captured the imagination of viewers around the world. On review aggregators such as Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, the film received high ratings, with audiences applauding its faithfulness to Frank Herbert's novel while also expanding on the themes and characters introduced in the first film. One common thread among audience reviews was the film's emotional depth. Many viewers noted that while the action and spectacle were impressive, it was the characters' journeys that left a lasting impact. Fans of the first Dune film praised how Part 2 continued to develop Paul's character, with some describing his internal conflict as the heart of the film. This isn't just a space epic. It's a film about power, destiny, and sacrifice, one review said. The relationship between Paul and Chani was also widely discussed, with fans appreciating how their connection deepened in Part 2. One viewer noted that Zendaya's increased screen time allowed Chani to come into her own as a character, creating a dynamic that felt both romantic and empowering. It's not just a love story, it's a partnership between equals, they wrote. Critics and fans alike also pointed to the film's impressive performances. Chalamet's portrayal of Paul was described as a natural evolution of his character from the first film, while Butler's take on Phaedratha was hailed as a standout. The emotional weight carried by Ferguson's Lady Jessica and Zendaya's Chani also garnered praise, with reviewers noting how they brought additional layers to the story. Conclusion: The Power of Dune Part 2. Dune Part 2 succeeded in captivating both longtime fans of Frank Herbert's literary work and newcomers to the world of Arrakis. The cast, including returning stars like Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, alongside newcomers such as Austin Butler and Florence Pugh, breathed life into the complex characters that populate Herbert's universe. Through interviews, audiences gained insight into the dedication and hard work that went into portraying these beloved figures. Meanwhile, reviews from both critics and fans highlighted the emotional depth, thematic richness, and outstanding performances that made the film a standout. In the end, Dune Part 2 is a triumph of storytelling, driven by its talented cast, immersive world-building, and nuanced characters. Through the collaboration of director Denis Villeneuve and his cast, the film has set a new standard for epic science fiction cinema, continuing to resonate with audiences long after the credits roll. Conclusion: A cinematic triumph in Dune Part 2. As the credits roll on Dune Part 2, audiences are left with more than just a sense of completion. They are left with a feeling of awe at the breathtaking world Denis Villeneuve has crafted. From the film's stellar performances to its rich thematic layers, Dune Part 2 is a testament to the power of storytelling in cinema. But beyond the epic battles and intricate political intrigue, it is the emotional and psychological journeys of its characters that make this sequel truly unforgettable. Each element, from the performances of Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya to the jaw-dropping cinematography and masterful direction, culminates in an experience that stays with the audience long after the theater lights come up. Let's take a moment to recap some of the major points covered in this exploration of Dune Part 2. 1. The power of the cast. The film is brought to life by a cast of actors who not only portray iconic characters, but also imbue them with a depth that goes beyond what the source material could have ever anticipated. Timothée Chalamet's portrayal of Paul Atreides takes the character to new heights, showcasing his evolution from a confused heir to a messianic figure caught between his destiny and his humanity. Zendaya's Chani, once a secondary character, is now a fierce leader, her relationship with Paul deepening both personally and politically. Austin Butler's portrayal of Phaedratha brings a charismatic yet dangerous energy to the screen, while Rebecca Ferguson's Lady Jessica delivers a performance full of emotional complexity. The stellar performances across the board ensure that every moment of the film resonates. 2. Immersive cinematic elements. The world of Dune Part 2 is not just a backdrop. It is a character in its own right. The setting of Arrakis, with its sweeping deserts, massive sandworms, and deep cultural conflicts, is brought to life through stunning cinematography that immerses viewers into its harsh yet beautiful landscape. Villeneuve's attention to detail in every frame, from the sandstorm sequences to the intimate moments between characters, creates a visual masterpiece that reflects the themes of the story. Whether it's the use of IMAX or the striking visual contrasts between the desert and the high-tech machinery, every visual element in Dune Part 2 serves to enhance the narrative. 3. Thematic depth. At its core, Dune Part 2 is a story about power, sacrifice, and destiny. The film delves deep into the psychological struggles of its characters, particularly Paul Atreides, whose internal battle between his role as a leader and his desire for a normal life is one of the film's central themes. As Paul becomes a symbol of hope for the Freeman, the film examines the consequences of hero worship and the burden that comes with being seen as a messiah. The symbolism throughout the film, particularly the recurring motifs of water and sand, enriches the story and adds layers of meaning to every scene. 4. Behind-the-scenes challenges and triumphs. Creating Dune. Part 2 was no small feat, from the practical challenges of filming on location in the deserts of Abu Dhabi to the logistical hurdles posed by the pandemic and labor strikes. The production team had to overcome numerous obstacles to bring this ambitious project to fruition. The dedication of the cast and crew is evident in every frame of the film, with behind-the-scenes stories revealing the level of collaboration required to achieve the film's stunning visuals. The challenges they faced, from weather delays to physical demands, did not dampen their spirit. Instead, they fueled the passion that is evident in eager to see where this story goes next. Whether through the sweeping landscapes of Arrakis or the intimate, internal struggles of its characters, Dune. Part 2 will continue to captivate and inspire. Call to action. Subscribe for more movie analysis and content. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Dune, Part 2, make sure to subscribe for more detailed analysis, reviews, and insider perspectives on the world of cinema. From exploring the most anticipated releases to uncovering the hidden gems of film, we're here to take you behind the scenes and into the heart of your favorite movies. By subscribing, you'll never miss an in-depth exploration of the stories, characters, and filmmaking techniques that make the movies we love so unforgettable. Provocative question: what does power mean in the world of Dune? As we reflect on the events of Dune, Part 2, one question lingers. What does true power look like in the world of Dune? Is it the power to command armies? Or is it the ability to wield influence over the lives of others? As Paul's journey continues, we see that power isn't just about physical strength or political clout. It's about the choices we make, the alliances we form, and the consequences of our actions. So, what do you think? Does Paul Atreides truly hold power, or is he simply a puppet to a greater force beyond his control? Join the conversation and let us know your thoughts in the comments below.